It all started at the beginning of June. I just finished high school, but as it turned out, I was not that academically gifted. When it came to schoolwork, I would much rather hang out with my friends than focus on the homework. And the result of this was I wouldn't have a chance to go to college. But I didn't want to go anyway. I just wanted to work and make my own money. During that time, I found several places around town that would hire someone who had just finished high school. But I wasn't keen on working at a fast food restaurant or inflating tires at the local tire shop. It wasn't that I didn't like to work, but the pay was lousy. In my mind, I needed to make some serious cash. I asked around for job opportunities that paid well over a minimum wage. Unfortunately, no one had a lead. So, I just had to take the first job I found, which was one at McDonald's. I'm not saying that working there was bad or anything, but I just had a different vision in my mind. Anyway, I went in, talked to the manager, and before I knew it, I got a uniform and was expected to work the next morning. Oh, God, I hate myself, I said while looking in the mirror early in the morning. I was all dressed up in that stupid uniform, wearing that stupid hat. But that's what I had to do. I had no choice. In about half an hour, there I was. I walked inside and went into the back to meet with the manager. "Good morning," she said while sipping on her black coffee, giving me a smile that made me contemplate my life. "Morning," I responded with a tired look on my face. The next thing I knew, she grabbed my hand. I didn't know what was going on, but she started showing me around the place. Then she explained my duties. I was in the back. I had to make the fries. "Glamorous," I said while inhaling the delicious smell of fried goodness. I had a coffee before we opened, and bam, I was working. The first customer came in, and shortly thereafter a whole bunch of them arrived. "What's up with that guy?" I asked one of my colleagues while I was taking out the fries. "Oh, him? He walks in here every day and begs for food, but we all know he just throws it away. He wants money to get drunk," Maria told me. As I was working, the guy came into the McDonald's. He was wearing old, torn clothes, he had long, greasy hair, and a very bushy beard. "Give me some fries," I heard. I didn't want to look at him. "Give me some fries, kid," he yelled. I turned my head to the right, and he was staring right at me. I got back to what I was doing, and fortunately security came and escorted him outside. He then walked away and didn't come back for the rest of the day. Everyone seemed to know him, and they weren't bothered by him that much. But in that second, when I turned my head and looked into his eyes, I saw something strange. It was like he had something personal towards me. He had the same look my bullies used to have back in middle school. Anyway, as the day went on, nothing interesting happened. I just had my head so deep in those fries that I almost forgot to go home on closing time. "See you tomorrow, rookie," my manager told me while I walked out the door with the same smile she had that morning. "Yeah, see you," I responded. But all I wanted to do was to get out of there. I was so tired, and my feet hurt from standing all day. As soon as I got home, I took a shower and went straight to bed. The next morning, as I arrived at work, the same smile greeted me. "I guess I'll have to get used to this," I said to myself while I smiled back at the manager. A couple of hours later, the same guy came in. Again, he demanded fries and he kept his eyes on me. "Come on, sir, you have to leave the store," my manager said. But he did something that no one thought would be possible. Pushed the manager, making her fall on the floor right there in front of everyone. Security quickly came and dragged the man outside. While he was being forced towards the exit, he continued to say, "I'll get you, kid! I want my fries! You're gonna pay!" With an evil look on his face. It gave me the creeps, and I told this to my colleague. She said she'd never seen him do something like this. He wasn't violent. All that he would normally do was come inside and ask for food, then leave without the security being involved. "I guess he has something personal towards you," she told me while laughing and patting me on the back. But I didn't laugh. I was freaked out. The rest of my shift ended without any interruptions. But as soon as I got outside, in the parking lot, I felt eyes on me. I looked left and right, but there wasn't anyone there. It was weirdly quiet. I hopped on the bus and went home. For the entirety of the bus ride, I smelled something awful. I didn't know where it came from, but someone in that bus didn't shower for quite a while. Before I knew it, I was at my front door. While I was searching for my keys, I felt a hand grabbing me from behind. I got pulled back and fell on my stairs, hitting my head on the pavement. "Now I got you!" I heard, while still trying to get myself back together after the fall. I opened my eyes, and there he was. The homeless guy who had his foot on my chest, making it difficult for me to breathe. "Get off!" I yelled, but he continued to stare into my eyes with that evil look. I managed to get his foot away and tried to escape, but he caught up and tackled me. He started raining punches, and I was trying so hard to protect myself, but I wasn't a fighter. My vision started to get blurry, and a loud ringing started to impair my hearing. I guess I was getting beaten up pretty badly. "Hey!" I heard. It was a neighbor of mine. He saw the entire scene and came to help. "Get off of him!" he yelled. The homeless guy got up and took out a knife. Then, without saying anything, he attacked my neighbor. Everything happened so fast. By the time I got up, the two men were laying on the grass. "Are you okay?" I asked my neighbor while going to check on him. He said he was fine, but a blood stain confirmed otherwise. I called an ambulance, and they quickly took him to the hospital, where he made a quick recovery. By the time the ambulance and police got there, the homeless guy was gone. He, too, left some bloodstains on the grass, but there wasn't any sign of him. He didn't come to the McDonald's after that incident. I haven't seen him ever since. I just hope that even if he's still alive, he stays away from me.
Cover my shift, please? I looked at Mike and sighed. Sure, I don't have anything to do tonight anyway. I was supposed to get off work in about 30 minutes, but it meant that I'd have to stay for the night shift now. It was hard to resist Mike's baby blue eyes. I worked at McDonald's and was grateful for my job. It came at the time when I was struggling to pay my bills. My parents couldn't cater to my every need, so I had to figure out a way myself. I was in college, but we were on a break at the moment, so it meant I didn't have to rush back to school immediately after my job. I could be out in more hours. Mike waved at me as he hurried out, probably off to some date with his girlfriend. They'd been together for about 3 months and were the cutest thing ever. I took orders as quickly as I could and gave them out just as fast. I wanted to go home and sleep. At 20, there wasn't a lot I was doing besides school. I heard that the world outside school could be brutal, so I tried to take care of myself whenever I could. Whoever was on the last shift was in charge of locking up the restaurant, and I guessed that it was my job to do now. I looked at the time and saw that it was 8:30. I sighed and continued answering the trickle of customers that came in. Finally, the last group of customers left, and I started to wipe the tables before I left. It was around 9. I just finished cleaning the last one when the front door opened. I turned around to tell the person that we had closed when I suddenly stopped. It was a big man and his face looked scary. He had 3 piercings above his right eyebrow and a bushy beard. His eyes looked so small compared to the rest of his face. I swallowed and walked to him, taking small steps. "I'm sorry, but we're already closed." He looked at me, then surveyed the rest of the restaurant. After nodding to himself, he went to sit down at the table I just cleaned. "I only want to stay here for a while. When you're about to leave, I'll go," he said. He looked like he was anxious. I retreated quietly and nodded to him. I couldn't exactly tell him no. I went back to the cleaning and saw that he was looking nervous, glancing at the door every now and then. I wondered if he was avoiding something, or maybe just needed a place to stay for a while. I wasn't sure it was safe being alone with someone I knew nothing about, especially when it turns out that he's not a customer. I finished finally and was about to go to him to tell him I was about to lock up, when I heard a noise at the front door. His eyes went to mine, and I watched as he drew a gun from the waistband of his pants. I screamed and ran to the counter. The front door got kicked open and 2 men stormed in. "Where is he?" one of them yelled before he sighted the man and charged for him. The man fired a shot into the ceiling, and the other men dove to the floor. I heard them groan as they hit the floor. It didn't sound like anyone had gotten shot. I cowered behind the counter and cursed silently. My phone was in the locker at the employees' room, so there was no way to call the police. I covered my ears with my hands and tried to make myself as unnoticeable as possible. I knew they couldn't see me behind the counter, and I hoped they forgot that I was there. A chair scraped at the floor, and I carefully peeked out. The first man was on the floor with the 2 men standing over him. His gun was somewhere else on the floor, and he pleaded with them. Wait, just give me more time. I'll get the money, I promise, the man yelled, his eyes widening in panic. Shut up. The other man shot him in the chest and looked up at the sound of my gasp. Oh shit, I whispered. I ran through the back door, my Converse skidding on the floor. They were right behind me, and I knew that they wanted to eliminate me so that I wouldn't let it out that they had just killed someone. My heart was beating erratically and fear courses through my veins. Never in my life did I think I would be in such a situation. The street was dark, but I could make out a few people just up ahead. If I could reach them in time, they should be able to offer help. Please help me, I yelled when I got within earshot. The men behind me stopped when they noticed the people up ahead, and I looked back to see them running in the other direction. I pointed towards them. Those men just killed someone, I gasped out, trying to catch my breath. And they were about to kill me too. My body started to tremble when I realized the enormity of the situation. If they had caught up with me, I would have been dead. The people I had run up to quickly called the cops, choosing to wait with me as I narrated what happened. We walked back to McDonald's together and saw that the man was still there, blood pooling under him. His eyes were closed, but he appeared to still be breathing. I was still in shock. What had started out as a pleasant night took a sinister turn. The cops arrived and took control of the situation. An ambulance was called for the man on the floor, and he was rushed to the hospital. They claimed he was in a critical condition. The cops interrogated me and made me describe the men to great detail. It wasn't hard for me to do because I still remembered their faces vividly. The one that had shot the man was of average height and was bald. The other one was a bit taller and had a lanky frame. The cops promised to get in touch with me if they needed my help. Frankly, all I wanted to do was to go home and sleep. The night has been exhausting for me. I got dropped off at my apartment, a dingy thing in the middle of my area. I went straight to my room and lied down on my bed. I tried to sleep, but my attempts were unsuccessful. I kept replaying the moment when the man got shot. It was one thing to watch it happen on TV. It was another thing to see it happen right in front of me. My body still had slight tremors. I had never felt as scared as I did when I was being chased by those men, and it felt like they were going to catch up to me. I finally fell asleep and decided that I would never take the night shift ever again. Let's go skydiving. I gasped at Christine and swallowed hard. She was once again demonstrating her wild side. I asked her why, and she merely shrugged and said she thought it was going to be fun. Everyone always said we were opposites, right from high school. Christine was the vicarious one and always managed to get in some sort of trouble. I, on the other hand, usually kept to myself. I disliked the spotlight and tried not to draw attention to myself, which became unavoidable once I met Christine. Most times, she managed to convince me to get on board with one of her crazy ideas, and we ended up suffering the repercussions together. Last summer, Christine thought it was a good idea to pour melted butter on the water slides so we could slide faster. I had broken my arm while Christine had a leg fracture. That didn't stop her from suggesting that we should climb up a huge mast once we got healed. Thankfully, we didn't get injured, but the security guard around that area detained us. I blinked at Christine's wide green eyes twinkling with mischief inside. How does one even go skydiving? She explained to me that she got in contact with a guy who was an attendant on planes used for skydiving. It wasn't a lot of money, and she would pay for bothering both of us. We only live once, Tam. Let's make the most of it. And like usual, I gave in to her infectious smile. At the entrance of the plane, my legs turned to jelly. We were so high up that the buildings below us were nothing more than tiny specks. Christine, wait, I'm not so sure about this. I started to move back with trembling legs. Even though I had been strapped with a parachute, it seemed so crazy that I would willingly jump off a plane. The instructor strapped behind me tried to calm me down. Don't be a coward. I was sure I was screaming, but I couldn't hear a thing. The wind rushed in my ears, and those tiny specks started to get larger. I gulped, looking down at my impending death. The parachute was deployed, and we floated safely to the ground. I lied down flat on the ground for a couple of minutes, glad to feel solid earth beneath me. Christine's grin was so wide that I forgot about my discomfort for a moment and smiled back shakily. One day, she would make us do something incredibly dangerous. Christine and I were taking a walk through the neighborhood. We had gone out to the movies earlier and were still talking about it when we passed by the abandoned library. Christine paused in front of it and raised her eyebrows at me. "No," I said, and continued walking. There was no way I would go to that creepy-looking place, especially this late. "Haven't you wondered what's inside? We might never get a chance like this. Come on," Christine urged. I gave an insufferable sigh and gestured for her to lead the way. She squealed and ran up the short steps in front of the library. I looked at the sky as I followed her in. It was getting dark, and I promised myself that we would only stay for nothing more than an hour. I wrinkled my nose from the horrible smell inside. Moldy books didn't smell nice. Christine was waiting for me impatiently, so I hurried up to her. We checked through the entire floor of the library, and they all had the same thing to show: shelves of dusty, moldy books. Christine finally gave in to my pleas that we should leave. As we walked back to the entrance, Christine pointed out a door that we had somehow missed. She turned the handle and it creaked as the door opened. I saw a flicker of light in the distance and froze. When I didn't see it again, I thought it was just a trick my mind played on me. We put on our flashlights and I looked inside. It was a long hallway and seemed to branch off into another room. We walked down the hallway and I noticed that it didn't smell as bad as the rest of the library. It actually smelled like people had been living there recently. When I told Christine my suspicions, she laughed it off and told me I was being paranoid. A door slammed shut and Christine and I screamed. It was the door that led back to the library. We were almost at the end of the hallway, so we couldn't make out if someone was there. "Who are you?" came the voice. It was a man, and he didn't sound happy that we were here. "Why are you disturbing my peace?" he bellowed, and I raised my flashlight to see him running towards us. I turned from him and ran, Christine right behind me. We reached the end of the hallway. There were 2 rooms and I blindly reached out for one, pushing the door open. Christine slammed it shut behind her, and we put our backs against it. "Oh God," Christine sobbed. I knew why she was scared. In those few moments that I had raised my flashlight to the man's face, we saw glimpses of his tattered clothes. He had a long, unkempt beard, and his eyes were bloodshot. I didn't think he was normal. The door rattled as the man rammed into it. It nearly buckled me and Christine off. We applied more force, breathing hard. I was crying too, and I knew that we couldn't hold on for long. He gave a roar and slammed into the door again. Christine and I stood no chance, and he managed to dislodge us. He towered over us, and we shrank back. "Why can't everyone leave me alone?" he yelled, as he grabbed Christine by her hair and lifted her up. She was shaking and begging him not to harm her. I gulped and crawled away from him. He brought up one of his meaty hands and smacked Christine's face. Her head lolled backwards, and I screamed. My scream alerted him to my presence, and he lumbered over to where I was. I crawled away. "Please," I sobbed. "We're sorry." He didn't seem to hear me. He lifted his leg and kicked me. My breath came out of me in a whoosh, and I folded in on myself. He kicked my back again, and this time I screamed. He dragged Christine to where I was and kicked her too. She roused up from her unconscious state and joined me in screaming. Suddenly he stopped, staring into the distance. I heard it then, the sirens. He roared with displeasure and ran out of the room, leaving Christine and I bloodied on the floor. The police got our statements and explained that the man was a schizophrenic patient who escaped from the mental ward. An ambulance was called for us and we got treated. My parents forbade me from seeing Christine, and it was something I was grateful for. I went back to my quiet life and kept to myself. I've had enough adventures for one lifetime.